Hey guys, Spud here, and today we have another recording of a one-on-one training session with one of my students. This student came to me asking for a full slate of training sessions and instruction to go from truly zero to hero in the A-18C Hornet and to get to a point where he could fly in and enjoy our regular Sunday missions that are hosted on my Discord server. My goal with these training sessions, and especially folks with very little experience, is to take away the intimidation factor of learning a DCS World Aircraft and give them the tools required to more easily learn the module on their own in between training events. Typically, I send students away from these training events with homework consisting of a stack of Training Mission Miz Files, along with reading recommendations for books and various manuals, and then on top of that, recommendations for videos and documentaries to watch to increase their aviation IQ. I always try and help create a well-rounded DCS World player who knows a lot about their jet, but also knows how to interact in the aviation environment, allowing them to more easily integrate themselves into larger groups of pilots in our Sunday missions or on public servers with their friends. So the basics of ATC and tactical comms are always on the training syllabus. This video depicts the second lesson for this student. Our first lesson was a little rough, to be honest, but man, he sure made amazing progress through this last week as he worked through the various homework tasks assigned and surprised the heck out of me with how easily he took to using the targeting pod, which really shows off his spatial thinking skills and spatial reasoning skills. As always, guys, I do one-on-one training with all of my patrons who donate $15 or more on Patreon to support the channel. You can find the link in the description down below, as well as in the pinned comment. After you sign up, make sure to send me a PM on Discord so we can set up a date and time for your first training event. Thanks, guys. An AAQ-28 Lightning targeting pod.
So both of these, in terms of pods, are just ways for targeting?
Yeah, so the AWW313 data link pod is essentially, think of it as like a walkie-talkie to talk to a cruise missile.
Okay.
So you would target the missile with some other sensor like a targeting pod, but that's how you would talk to the missile.
And then what is the Lightning?
The Lightning pod is essentially, think of it as a big old IR camera and TV camera that you can zoom in, and it also has a laser that's slaved to those cameras for actually designating targets with a laser for dropping laser-guided bombs.
All right, so that's the one we need today?
Yes, sir.
Sounds good. That's that like little camera-looking thing on the outside of planes, right?
Like, yep, exactly. It looks like a little pill with a camera on the front.
Yeah, okay.
You can also put the pod on Station 4, and there's also the option for a different type of targeting pod, the AN-ASQ-228 ATFLIR pod, which is a slightly different pod. I find that the Lightning is actually easier to use, so that's the one we'll start with.
Okay.
Also, something to consider is I find it easier to use the pod and learn to use the pod with it on the center line, Station 5. So that way the pod has a bigger field of view. It's not going to get blocked by our own fuselage or our fuel tanks or weapons hanging down underneath our aircraft because it hangs down below everything on the jet.
Makes sense. Obviously, you can't see through the plane or behind it, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So go ahead and start the rearm refuel. And this time I'm not going to walk you through the actual startup procedure, but I'll just kind of watch over your shoulder and I'll quiz you a little bit, make sure you got everything.
Sounds good. Do you want me to kind of verbally run through it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. All right, so we're requesting a rearm. Our wings are already out. We're going to start our battery. Come over here, turn on the APU. It's going to generate for right engine crank. I'm going to turn on my DDIs while I'm waiting.
Alrighty.
And also turn on my HMD. Alright. And my oxygen. It's going to get loud, so I'm going to close my canopy.
Fantastic.
Rearming is complete. Checking both wings. All good. Starting up the right engine. Putting it to idle. Now everything that I did turn on should start to come up. We did not do the tests, so normally I would bleed the air and go around in a circle.
Yep.
I'm not sure, so if I don't do the firing test, do I have to continue to do that or no?
You don't have to, but it's always a good habit to be in if you do a fire test.
Okay. And then I'm gonna just already start up the left. Get that cranked up. Turn on the positioning lights. Check those. Turn on all the lights. There you go. Alright, we're ready to start the other engine. Set it to idle. Lock them together for the moment. Alright, so we're going to reset our FCS and flight control systems. We're going to click our takeoff trim, set it back to 12. Is this considered a heavy thing? Okay.
We are a heavy loadout, so it's going to be 16 degrees nose up on the takeoff trim.
Yeah, so FCS is up. Bring the stabs to 16. Got that. Alright, so this is good. We're going to switch our hook bypass to field because we're not on a carrier.
Beautiful.
Flaps to half for takeoff. Not messing with this. We're going to turn our IFF on.
Nice.
Like tells us if it's friend or foe, right?
Absolutely.
Data link, we wouldn't turn on the first one because it's not a carrier, so it would be the second one. Turn that on.
You got it.
Alright. Turn our brightness up on our HUD. And set it to radar altitude for takeoff. Set our bingo. What would you like that to be today?
Let's go for 6,000 pounds.
Alright, set bingo to 6,000.
And you may have already said it, and I may have missed it. Did you set your INS to IFA yet?
No, I haven't. Yeah.
So you want to do that right off the bat. Once you get everything, good to go, you got your engines on, all that. First thing I would say is just get that INS knob to IFA, just so that way your INS can align itself before you're ready to actually start taxiing.
Okay, that makes sense. So right after I turn on the right engine, just flip that over.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay. So we have IFF on. We did our data link, just checking it. That's on. So kind of moving down from there, I'm going to click waypoint to kind of set that. Waypoint 1. I'm going to turn on our RWR. That's RWR, right?
Yep, or raw, however you want to say it.
And then our ECM to receive.
You got it.
Our dispenser to bypass.
Nice.
And that's it for here. When I'm down here, I just like to do the armed and the seat belts. So that's all good to go. Strap this in.
Something to be aware of, though. Again, it doesn't matter in DCS. More of a realism thing. Is you wouldn't want to arm your ejection seat while you're underneath a concrete shelter.
Okay. I like the realism aspect of it, so I'll undo that for the moment.
Yep.
So I did have a question. So
sure.
Well, let me get through all of it, and then I'll see if it's still on there, and then I'm going to ask the question, because the last training session I did right before you came on, I had something on my FCS, and I didn't know what it meant. So, anyway, so our HUD is on. We're going to align that really quick. It's our helmet display. Not our HUD, our HMD.
Alrighty.
Align that. Okay. And align the two crosses. There you go. Perfect. Okay, they are aligned now. Let's bring our HSI up on the right. And then we're going to reset the flag.
You got it.
all done. Our altitude, so should I check? So 2992.
Altimeter setting here
Or
is
altimeter, excuse me. 2992. Right?
Yep, 2 9s and 2s. Yep.
Yep. Great. So that's good. Alright. Then we're gonna do our radar. Still 600?
Yep.
Okay. So that is set. Now come into the right panel. We already did our bleed air, all that's good. I don't need the anti-ice, defog. So next up is our lights. Those up. I actually like the night mode for the what is it, IFE?
Yeah.
So turn that on. And then we already have radar to OPR, INS to IFA. Do I need to do anything for the FLIR or LST?
Yeah, so for the FLIR switch, go ahead and set that to standby, and that will bring power to our targeting pod, and it will start its alignment process. Typically, you want to make sure that that little eyeball on the pod in standby mode is stowed in its back in its own body. The front of the targeting pod is a ball, and that ball moves around, and that houses the cameras and the laser. And you want to make sure when you take off and land, that ball is stowed back into its body. Otherwise, you could damage the pod itself.
Okay,
so
how do I check that?
You can't check that in the cockpit, but having the switch in the standby mode means that it's in standby mode and the ball is secured.
Okay. Okay. And then do I need to do anything with the laser designator or target designator?
We can set that to, we can leave that to safe for now. We'll arm that right before we actually fire the laser.
And then what is LST and SLR?
The LST, that's our laser spot tracker. That is essentially a mode in the pod where the pod will just look for somebody else's laser and then lock on to that laser. So it's really great for helping people find targets, but it's a little bit finicky to learn how to use. So we'll save that for another lesson.
Sounds good. Alright, and then so what we would need to do now is turn on our taxi lights.
You got it.
And it doesn't look like anything is actually left on the FCS this time. So last time it said flaps off my entire flight.
Flaps off.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of might be that you forgot to reset your FCS.
Okay.
But there would be other cautions and advisories associated with that as well.
Yeah, everything else was off.
Was it like that after takeoff or before takeoff as well?
Both.
Okay, so I'm not quite sure. The only other thing that I was going to say is maybe you had oversped your flaps on takeoff.
Okay.
But you saying that that wasn't the case makes me, I'm not quite sure. The only other thing I could think of is just your FCS was not reset, but I'm not quite sure.
And then with the master caution, another question I had was, so during that flight with the other people from the group, whenever this would go off for different reasons, how do I see what it's actually telling me?
So the master caution has two ways of telling you what's wrong with your jet. Normally, it will pop up it'll overlay on the top of the left-hand DDI, as well as it'll also pop up in the caution and advisories panel on the right-hand vertical console, just underneath your radar altimeter wheel.
Yep. Okay.
So, like for instance, if you, let's see if I can do something to my jet to make it pop up.
I have the master caution light on right now, so what is it telling me on my screen? I don't see anything on the screen on the bottom underneath the radar altimeter.
Your stream is kind of choppy. Do you mind turning down the quality of it? Bring it down to like 720 or something like that?
Not a problem.
Awesome.
Quality. There we go.
Alright, let's see. That's probably going to help, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Ah, there we go. Okay. So, let's see. You could look down at your master caution panel. Dang it, why is it so choppy? I just can't see shit on your screen.
I mean, I have it at 60 FPS. It should be Is it because my computer
No,
is actually at 120? It wasn't choppy the first time.
yeah, I know. I think it's my internet still. Try maybe lowering it to 30 FPS because it's just it's a result of I'm not able to load your stream. Seems to be the issue.
Okay. Yeah, you want me to put it to... It's 720 and 30 now.
Yeah, that should be fine. Let's see. Okay, so look down at the caution advisories panel.
Which is...
Down by right... Yeah, so that's...
Clear.
So so it's clear. So what it is basically is when your jet is a very complex organism, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So there are many different ways a master caution can be tripped for many different reasons, essentially. So as you're starting up a jet, it's totally normal to have a bunch of warnings and master cautions going off as different systems come online. Because one system coming online first that relies on another system, and that one's not online, it could potentially cause a trip of that master caution. And so as you start up your jet and more systems come online, you'll see that your caution advisories panel starts off like lit up like a Christmas tree, and then less and less and less and less as more systems come online and things start to settle in and your jet starts up. Okay. So what happens is that master caution, the actual button in the top left, will not extinguish on its own. You have to reset it manually by clicking on it and pressing it in. And that's true of really every jet or complex aircraft out there.
Sounds good. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, no problem. So just like last session, we'll have you taxi out of your shelter. It's going to be a right-hand turn, and then after that right-hand turn, it's a straight shot down to runway. What is it here? I think it's 31.
Do I need to remove chocks, wheel chocks? No matter.
Shouldn't need wheel chocks removed, but just go ahead and turn off your parking brake, and you should be ready to taxi.
All right. Parking brake off. Flaps at half. There we go. You said to the right?
Yeah, it's going to be just follow your taxiway there. So it sounds like in the mission you flew with the other guys, you were off of a carrier?
We tried off of a carrier, but it glitched out. They wanted to teach me how to get off of a carrier, and then it kind of glitched out. We weren't doing the super carrier, just the regular carrier.
Oh yeah, okay.
And then
yeah, aircraft carriers are finicky in DCS, to say the least.
Yeah, so we took off from an airport, and it all went good. It's just like I said, I got lost in the clouds a whole lot, so I didn't.
Yeah, gotcha.
It was making things very difficult for me, and then like I said, my EW wasn't working, and so I ended up losing where they were because once I lost visual.
Okay.
On them, it just kind of went haywire from there.
Yeah. So one thing that's pretty cool, and we'll talk about that today, is the SA page, or Situational Awareness page in the FA-18. If you have data link turned on, you can see exactly where your teammates are, or members of your flight, or any other friendly jets are at the glance of looking at the page or looking outside with your HMD. So I'll show you how to do that, and it's pretty darn cool. It works really, really well. So let's go ahead and hold short of the runway here.
I didn't see the double yellow line or anything, so I was not sure where to stop.
Yeah, the taxiway / runway markings in DCS aren't the most realistic in the world. Okay. So some of them are missing, so you kind of have to like fudge it.
All right, and I don't see the windsock at the moment.
Yeah, no windsock here, but I'll get the winds in just a moment for you. Did we go over in our last lesson the 3 different types of responses the tower can give you when you ask for permission for takeoff?
No, and that was actually a question I had for you because I've been to like removing the chocks. I kind of wrote down a spiel in terms of talking to the ATC like you were doing, so that it was correct. And I was kind of practicing that. I have it written on my phone, but I was stopping. I was holding short of the runway, and then I was requesting for takeoff. and it never said anything ever to me, so I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Typically, I don't even bother with the AI ATC, but if you're ever to fly in my missions, you're likely to come across a human performing ATC duties.
Okay.
So being the tower and being the ground controller. So typically, when you're holding short of a runway, you would call up ATC. You'd say, hey, what is this airport? King Hussein Tower. This is Spud 11, flight of 2 F-18s holding short runway 31. And the tower will come back and say, Spud 11 flight, you're cleared for takeoff, runway 31. Which means, of course, just take the runway's yours, take off at your leisure.
All right.
The second response would be, Spud 11 flight, hold short, runway 31. Which means just stay where you are, so there's somebody's landing, somebody's taking off still, or he just doesn't want you on the runway yet. Or the third option, which is kind of the more complex one, is Spud 11, line up and wait, runway 31.
Okay.
At which point we would line up on the runway and get ready to take off, but we wouldn't take off yet. And tower controllers will use this as a method of increasing the efficiency of the runway. So we're lined up ready to take off while somebody's still rolling out from landing or someone else is still taking off. So that way, as soon as they're off the runway, the tower can then come back to you and say, Spud 11 flight, you're cleared for takeoff, runway 31.
You can like in commercial when all the planes line up and you're just kind of waiting in line?
Yep, exactly. And so it's a way of just making the whole takeoff evolution go faster for many, many jets.
Okay.
So for today, let's once again we'll fly out towards waypoint 1, and we'll climb up to, let's go for 18,000 feet today.
Okay.
And we'll go for an airspeed of 350 indicated. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
And did we talk about or go over formation takeoffs at all in my last?
Not at all.
Okay, so let me double check the wind here. So if the wind is down the runway, then we might as well try it out, which it is. Perfect. All right, let's try it. So go ahead and line up on the runway, and think of cutting the runway in two and line up in the center of the left half of the runway.
In the center of the left half?
Yes.
All right. So where all the lights are, basically?
Yeah, exactly. Line up right in the middle where those lights are positioned, essentially.
All right.
All right, so formation takeoffs are really fun, as well as they're a great way to just come off the ground right in formation with your wingman, and so that way you can just start head to the target together. As well as it expedites things on the runway for the ATC controllers, because we're just a small little fighter jet. If we can take two off at the same time, or more at the same time, well, that's going to make things easier on the tower controller.
All right.
So, what you do as the flight lead for a formation takeoff, it's very important, is you want to make sure that you don't accidentally have a wingman come forward on you and accidentally clip your wing or come out and squirt out in front of you. You also don't want to leave a wingman in your dust behind you, because then he's going to hit your wake turbulence. So what we do is when we line up, we say Spud flight to set brakes, at which point your wingman will acknowledge by saying 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. And then you're going to say flight, run them up, full mil, whatever, just a call that will let your wingman know to start running up their engines to about full military power or so.
Okay.
Then, once you see your engines are spooled up, you're going to say, Spud flight, release brakes now, or some other kind of cadence, so that way everyone releases brakes all at the same time. We're going to start rolling down the runway together. Then you're going to say, and burners or afterburners or gates or some other kind of call, whatever you like, in order to tell the rest of your flight to push it up into burner, and then we'll actually begin our takeoff from there. So it's a little bit of an elongated and longer sequence for a takeoff than just lining up, throwing your jet to afterburners and going. Make sense?
Yeah. Is there any way that you could lead for this?
So I'm going to be the wingman here, but
Okay.
what I will do is I will make the calls for you,
Sure.
just so that way you can see how it works. Sound good?
How do I know? So when I'm holding the brake and then I go to full mill power, how do I know when it's actually spooled up? Like, what should it show on the IFE?
So in the IFE, on the RPM, you should see 100% RPM with no afterburners.
100% with no afterburner. Okay. So it should
Yep.
be all the way down towards the bottom?
Yes.
Okay.
So basically, we'd say Spud 1-1 flight, set brakes,
Right.
and then your wingman would reply with 2. And then I'll say Spud 1-1 flight, run them up. So start to run it up to full military power.
Alright.
And Spud 1-1 flight, release brakes and burners. And rotate. Gear up, flaps up. Get those gear up. There you go. And
15 nose up.
yeah, it's a little steep. Let's bring it down to about 10 to 12 or so.
Okay.
So you're kind of running away from me here. Just remember that your wingmen are always going to be on the slow bus.
Okay. I'm at 11 degrees nose up, give or take.
Yep, check your speed. Oh, 350 indicated. Pretty quick. You typically want to come out of burners pretty quick coming off the runway, especially in one of my more large missions with lots of people in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're gonna trying to talk and fly at the same time. Because typically you're going to be flying a long distance in my missions, and so you want to save as much gas as possible. And obviously, afterburners use a lot of gas.
Right. And you said we're going to 18,000?
Yes, sir. And then as we start to get out of the terminal environment, I usually like to bring up my EW page on my left DDI and my radar page on my right DDI.
Okay, so I'm sorry, one more time.
I like to usually bring up my left, or on my left DDI, my EW page, and the radar on my right DDI as we get out of the terminal area.
Alright. Copy.
That way you're apprised of any threats around you, as well as you're scanning the airspace around you with the radar. And I'm nice and saddled up on your right wing.
I see it. Gonna start to level out.
Roger.
Nope, too much. Watch my speed. Okay, 18,000.
All right, nice job.
Speeding up a little bit. Slow it down on that.
Yeah, you're good. So let's go for Mach 0.7.
Okay.
So it looks like it's right around about 337 indicated or so.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll give us lots of time to cruise around and talk about using the targeting pod.
Perfect. All set up. 18,000 and Mach 7. Points up.
Oh, all right. And why don't we go ahead and fence it?
And what does that mean again? Oh, okay. So lights off, right?
Yep.
Lights off. Arm, master arm,
You got it.
and air to ground.
Not necessarily air to ground.
Okay.
Being this far from the target area, I would just leave it in navigation mode. But honestly, all that kind of stuff, like which master mode you want to be in, which, what DDI page is up, at what times, that's totally up to personal preference. As long as you fly well and get the mission done, then you are doing it just fine, however you like to be most comfortable in your cockpit.
Sure. So how do I fence up besides what I did?
So it's basically, fence is a acronym for things to check, but I'm forgetting exactly what the acronym is at the moment. Having a bit of a brain fart, I suppose. And I just realized we just passed waypoint 1, so let's fly direct to waypoint 2. And
sure. Like, you want me to use coupling, or no?
Up to you. However you want to do it.
All right.
And so fence is a acronym. Oh, you are on TAC blim.
Whoa. What was that?
So fence is an acronym, and it essentially is, you want to check your emitters. So that's going to be, make sure your radar is on and working. You want to make sure that your ECM systems are on and working. All this stuff we want to make sure is ready to go. Make sure our countermeasures are ready to go. Make sure our weapons programs are ready to go. It's basically just ensuring that you have your aircraft ready to fly in combat.
Okay. Well, my ECM is on. Radars appear to be working and on. Lights are off.
Nice.
I do have a master caution on at the moment, and it's
let's see.
Heat.
That's your ejection seat.
I didn't arm it because it was a different. Yeah, got it.
Yep.
It is done.
Fantastic. And make sure to reset the master caution switch.
Yep.
All right. And so we'll go ahead and bring up our targeting pod page. On your TAC menu, it's going to be the FLIR page in the top.
Do you do that on the right or the left? What's your preference?
Totally up to you. Typically, I do it on the right.
Okay. So TAC, and then I want to bring up the FLIR page, you said?
Yes, sir.
And what would that be under?
It's going to be on your TAC menu.
I don't see... Oh, top left. Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
And right now, it's a black screen, right? So we want to go down and set our FLIR switch to on.
Okay.
And then it's still a black screen because we actually have to tell the pod to do something before it will actually start to bring its little eyeball out of its own body. So the way we do that is on the right-hand side of the screen, we have a button labeled VVSLV for Velocity Vector Slave, and pressing that will slave the field of view of the camera to our velocity vector.
Alright.
And this can be a handy way of getting the pod onto a target by actually flying our velocity vector over the top of the target. We can also get our pod onto a target by just taking one of our waypoints and telling the jet that one of our waypoints is actually a target point. And that's very, very easy. On the HSI, all you have to do is hit the WPDSG button on the bottom right of the screen.
Done.
And you can see now that our pod is now looking at the ground pretty much right below us as we pass over our currently selected waypoint.
I see that.
Pretty cool, right?
Yes.
And now why don't we go ahead and fly on out towards steer point 3 once we pass steer point 2.
Is there a way to make the coupling smooth?
Yeah, there is. So right now you're in what's called TAC blim, which is essentially the jet is flying a little bit more violently and a little bit more, it's being very aggressive with its maneuvering. However, if you, on the HSI, hit the data page in the top right,
Data, yeah.
then aircraft in the top left.
Data, and then aircraft, A-18C?
Yes.
Okay.
Then on the left-hand column, it says TAC blim. Click that, and that should switch it over to nav blim, and that'll make the coupled autopilot a lot smoother for you.
Nav blim. Got it.
And then go back to the HSI page by hitting HSI in the top right to get out of the data page.
Okay.
You got it.
Waypoint 3?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then sometimes this has happened to me in the past too. My coupling has gone away, my option.
Yep, that is because when we select a waypoint as a target, we need to, and then we fly to a different waypoint, we need to reselect waypoint navigation in the top right of our HSI.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see it. Waypoint navigation is off.
Yep. And now you can hit that again, and your coupled option should come back.
And it's much smoother.
Yep. It's still pretty abrupt, but it's much smoother for sure.
Sorry, I almost took you out again.
It's all good. But basically, when you're flying, not so much in real life, like real pilots don't really, make warning calls when they make turns for their wingmen. But in DCS, just because we're a little less situationally aware because we're dealing with screens and VR and stuff, right. I always like to make a little courtesy call to my wingmen, just be like, hey guys, we're coming left in, 3, 2, 1, or hey guys, coming left, or, something of that nature, just to help them out a little bit.
Makes complete sense. Sounds
yeah. Cool. So now that we are flying to a different point away from the waypoint that we currently had set as a target, which was waypoint 2, our pod is now tracking in more or less what's called snowplow mode.
Huh. So it's still on 2, it's not on 3?
Nope. It is following us, or it is essentially following us. It's looking 45 degrees down below our nose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Also, check your speed here.
Yeah. We want 0.7?
Yeah, let's go for Mach 0.7. Now, typically, if we're flying in combat in one of my missions or something of that nature, I'd want to be flying a bit faster, but this is just giving us plenty of time to talk about the targeting pod.
Sure. We might have needed to fly a little slower.
So let's go to air-to-ground master mode at this point. And go ahead and select
air to ground. Okay.
Yep. And we'll start to set up our weapons that we're going to deliver with our targeting pod. So the first weapon we want to set up is our JDAMs. That's a J82 on the top left, which the J and the 82 mean that it's a Mark 82 with a JDAM kit on it.
Okay.
When you select your JDAM, in the top left we have our mode, and right now it's set for PP for pre-planned. But if we want to use the weapon in conjunction with a targeting pod, we want to set the mode to TOO for target of opportunity mode.
Okay, so pre-planned versus TOO, target of opportunity.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Then, just like the dumb bombs you're used to using, down below, set your E-fuse to instant. Yep. Or if you want it delayed, then you can set it for delayed. But for today, we'll just set it for instant.
Mm-hmm.
And then for our laser-guided GBU-12s, that's 82 LG in the top there.
Yep.
And that, again, means it's a Mark 82 with a laser guidance kit attached to it.
All right.
For the mode, we're going to do an automatic delivery, or auto.
Okay.
For E-fuse, we'll set that to instant again.
Done.
First off, we will attack our targets with JDAMs, and that will be a little bit easier for you, and then we'll follow up with the more difficult weapons, which is the laser-guided bomb.
All right.
One more thing we need to set up with our LGBs here is we need to tell the jet what code is encoded onto the bombs. Laser-guided bombs have little dials on the outside of the laser guidance kit, and a ground crewman or ordnanceman sticks a screwdriver into the little hole in the dial and dials in the correct laser code for that weapon. And so we need to tell the jet what laser code we are going to be using on that weapon. Let's just continue out on the heading of 350 for now.
Alright, get rid of that.
So the way we input the laser code into the systems of the jet is hit the UFC button on the bottom right. I'm sorry, actually scratch that. Correction, hit the code button on the bottom left with the Mark 82, with the GBU-12 selected.
With the J82?
Yep, with the 82LG selected.
The 82LG, alright, and then I'm looking for...
On the ODU of the UFC, you now have an option that says code. Do you see that?
I think I might have missed a step. So, on my DDU, or DDI, air to ground, it says 82LG is in the box.
Yep. On the bottom left of that page, it says code. Do you see that?
Yeah, got it.
Hit that button. And then on the UFC, you now have an option for code in the option display unit, or ODU. Do you see that?
Yes.
Hit the little circle button next to it.
Okay.
And then type in the code 1688 on your UFC, and then hit the enter key.
Alright, now the X went away in the box?
Yep, and that's what we want. When we see a code displayed in the little box, you know that the jet now knows what code is encoded onto those bombs.
Okay, and 1688 is always what it would be?
It's what we have it for today.
Okay.
DCS defaults to code 1688. However, if you're in a mission with lots of other jets, you're going to want your own discrete code, so that way your bombs don't chase somebody else's laser. What essentially it is these lasers don't fire like a steady stream of energy like a flashlight, turning on a flashlight. It flashes at a very high frequency, and the code is flashed onto the target, and the bomb will only go after this certain flashing sequence that it sees. So it's a way of allowing multiple aircraft in the airspace to engage targets with LGBs without having crosstalk between the bombs and the laser designators.
Okay, so you would have to use a different one than me if we were both dropping.
Yep, exactly.
Got it.
So let's go ahead and fly direct to steer point 5. That's going to be our target point for today. That should be at Damascus International Airport.
Okay. Turning right.
Roger.
How do I get on my HUD, the degree of turn has gone away.
So that's because we're in air to ground mode. It will only show up in navigation master mode.
Okay. Cool seeing you in my information with me.
Yeah.
I was too busy the last time to be even able to look back at you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a lot going on in the last one. You were very behind the jet and very, deer in the headlights. So now more and more and more is kind of coming together for you.
Yeah, after the first session with you, and then I kind of practiced one time. The second time I went up and I took off, I was like, it felt very freeing because I was able to just kind of enjoy myself after getting kind of the AP thing set and things like that, and way before I got to waypoint 3, so it was nice to just kind of enjoy myself.
Yeah. All right.
So we're going to heading 145?
Yeah, about 145 it looks like, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Now is like the kind of turn that I'm doing right now, is that, so not having those points kind of, I don't have a good sense for it, but is this like low, typical, like
yeah,
a good speed? Or?
Yeah, it's totally normal. As long as you can, make a nice level turn, then you're good to go.
Okay.
All right, and start rolling out. Okay.
18,000 feet, 0.69. Let's speed up a little bit.
Alright, so make sure that you have your FLIR page open, so that way we can see the field of view of the targeting pod.
Hold on 1 second. There we go. Okay, so, I'm sorry, one more time?
Yeah, so make sure you have your FLIR page open on one of your DDIs. And go ahead and select your JDAMs on the stores page.
Okay, clear page is open. And then on the stores page, so stores and the J82.
Yep, you got it.
Okay, and that still has a box, or an X in the box.
In the box? Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay.
Then we're gonna go sensor control. Which screen do you have the FLIR page on?
I swapped them by accident, so it's on the left and the stores are on the right.
Okay, no problem. So you're gonna want to go sensor control switch left, and you want to see. Yeah.
I'm just like, can I switch them over? Because that's where I'm gonna want it to be anyway.
Yeah, okay. Go for it.
So FLIR, and then over here stores. Okay, got all that. All right, so sensor control to the right.
You got it. And you're gonna want to see a diamond in the top right of the FLIR page. Do you see that?
Got it. Yep.
Okay. So now let's slave the target, or the targeting pod, to our waypoint 5 target point by going waypoint designate on the HSI page again.
Waypoint designate. Got it. And it is, I guess, on the ground. You can't really see much because of the clouds, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay.
And as we get closer, we'll be able to see some fires down there that are around the airport. That'll help kind of guide us visually onto some targets. Now, our targets are going to be some airplanes that are scattered around the airfield down there.
All right.
So now some HOTAS controls for using the targeting pod. We can use our radar elevation buttons to zoom the pod in and out.
Got it. Yep.
Yep. We can use the RAID FOV FLIR button to zoom the pod in and out with a big step in zoom.
I don't think I have that set up.
Okay, I'll pause it here for you.
Okay. And then where do you have that on your HOTAS setup? You have the same one as me, right?
What's your HOTAS?
The CM3, the Mongoose.
Oh, yeah. So I have that set to the little button furthest to the left on my throttle.
Okay, I can do that. I have like you had brought up like the picture of my my throttle, so I have like a radial wheel all the way to the right, and then that button clicks in. Is that one that would be okay for that? Because kind of the ones on my fingers are already used.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, so options, adjust controls, and what are we looking for here?
We're looking for the RAID/FOV button. So just type in FOV on the search, and you should find it.
RAID/FLIR FOV?
Yeah.
Okay. It does say that I have something selected on my throttle, and I have no idea what that is, so I'm just going to clear that now.
Okay.
And we will set that up. Because I used like a presetting on like another profile, and then we kind of adjusted it from there the last time.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, so that. And so anytime I hit this, it's going to just do a big jump and zoom?
Yeah, you have the fine zoom, and then you have the big zoom in and out.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready for the unpause.
I am ready.
All right. So I'll go ahead and unpause it here for you. Okay, so once we get past these clouds here, we should be able to see the airport in the field of view of our pod.
Okay.
Try using that button to zoom in and out.
Yeah, it goes from 266 meters to 75?
Yep.
Oh yeah, I see it. Okay.
Yeah, it's a big step in zoom.
Oh yeah.
And if you move your pod down just slightly, you should see, use your TDC to move your pod a little bit. You should see some fires down there.
I think I'm looking at 2 right now.
Nice. And so we can also put the pod into FLIR mode, so that way it's an IR camera and make things a little easier to see, in my opinion, than using the CCD TV mode.
Okay. By
hitting the CCD button in the bottom left of the TPOD page.
On the CCD button? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh wow, that's way better.
Yeah, much better.
Okay.
So we've got, if you can see the fires down there in the field of view of your targeting pod,
yeah,
move your pod to that big fire on the right-hand side.
Got it.
And then if you zoom in on the base of that fire, there's some aircraft lined up on the ramp to the right-hand side of that big fire.
Okay, I see 2 planes, 3 planes, yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead and put your crosshairs over the top of one of those targets.
Alright, and I'm doing 1 to the second not the closest one, but the next one. Yeah.
Sounds good. I will go after some of the smaller MiGs on the ramp down there.
It's really hard to like get it on the thing.
Yeah, you kind of have to. You kind of have to mess with it a little bit.
I think I got it.
And then once you're good with the target, hit TDC depress in order to lock the target.
Okay, locked. And he's in the box or in the thing.
Yeah. So yeah, the target is good when the little crosshairs turn to the little diamond shape.
Okay.
At this point, we just want to. With a JDAM, it's very easy. All we need to do is just fly near the target, and as soon as it says we're in range, you can press the pickle button, and the weapon will guide itself into the target. It's a fire and forget weapon. It's GPS guided. We don't have to do anything once we drop the weapon off of our aircraft.
Now you're just taking it easy on me.
Yeah, exactly. It's super easy. It's basically just point and shoot.
So when I see the number on my HUD now, there's a whole bunch of new stuff. So it says 14 with an arrow down.
Yeah, so that's showing that the target is 14 degrees below our nose, and the arrow is pointing to the target. So if we come right just slightly to about 159 degrees or so, we'll be flying directly at the target. In the top of that block of text, there's a countdown timer, and it says about 20 seconds to max range, TMR. So that lets you know about 20 seconds till we can drop our weapon.
All right.
Now it's 10 seconds.
Oh, time to arm, or TMR?
Time to max range.
Time to max range. 5 seconds?
Yep.
And I overshot 159, sorry.
No worries. And now it says in zone, so you can drop your weapon whenever you're ready.
Do I push it or hold?
Just press the pickle button.
Alright, press.
And I just dropped mine. And that was pretty cool. I watched it fall right off your jet. And basically, once you drop a guided weapon, a free fall guided weapon, you're going to say pave way over the radio to let other pilots know that there is a bomb falling out of the sky and to watch out.
Pave way?
Yeah, pave way. Okay. So the name of a laser guided bomb, the actual brand name of a LGB is Paveway. And so, basically, that name has stuck ever since they were first designed back in the 1960s.
Is it too late to adjust it? It's right off the tip of the plane.
Yep, that's okay. And with a super soft target, like an airplane, a near miss is going to absolutely wreck that target, and you don't have to really worry about it too much. So the impact should be relatively short right here.
Right now, yeah.
Yep. You can usually bet the impact will be right after the twist.
Okay.
So there's my impact. There's your impact. Nice shot.
Got it.
That IL-76 is never flying again.
Okay.
So something to think about when designating those targets is when you designate a target from very far away, your crosshairs aren't going to be perfectly on top of it when you get closer.
Right.
So there's nothing to prevent you from, right before you actually drop the weapon, redesignating, so that way you can get your crosshairs right on top of it.
Okay, and once I depress it the first time, I can just depress again and to unlock it, and then kind of adjust it?
You don't even have to depress to unlock it. Just keep moving your TDC and just keep depressing to set a new target point.
Okay.
Something to also note about a targeting pod is it doesn't know what is actually underneath the crosshairs. All it knows is basically the height of the ground that you're looking at. So it doesn't know that you're pointing at an airplane or a building or a tank. So when you designate, say, the top of the tail of an airplane, the bomb is going to fall long because it is designating the ground behind the tail of that airplane. So the best way to attack a target is to put the crosshairs right at the base of the target, right on the tracks of the tank, right on the landing gear of the airplane, right at the base of the building.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, because when we were far away, but even when it was in the circle, it was kind of at it had the plane in the circle, which I guess, or in the diamond, so that would be kind of a little bit above it, and that's exactly where it landed.
Yep, exactly.
All right.
So typically I like to fly, about 10, 12 nautical miles out away from the target before I start to maneuver to reattack.
Okay.
And basically, once you come off the target, if we make a 90-degree turn, your choice whether left or right, that'll unmask our pod. We can select a new target and then head back in for a re-attack.
Okay, so I'm going to be turning left.
Roger.
And so when I am looking at my heads-up display, that line on my heads-up display is where the target is? Or the waypoint?
The arrow, or...
Like an arrow, yeah, going to the line, or going to the diamond that's flashing?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And if you actually look off of your... If you follow the arrow, you can see the target on the ground with your HMD.
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
So go ahead and start rolling out.
Rolling out right now?
Yep.
You don't even have to fly towards it.
Nope, because the pod can look around, right, using its little eyeball. That's the beauty of a targeting pod, is you can stay stood off away from the target, away from the AAA, away from the SAMs. Pick out your target, then choose the best time to actually go in there and attack it, when it's the least dangerous.
Alright. I'm going to do the first plane to the left of the fire this time.
Sounds good.
Alright, so I got it lined up along the bottom of the plane this time. We'll try that. So I have it designated.
Nice. And when you're ready, we can just fly on back in for our re-attack.
Turning left.
Roger. Pretty darn cool, right?
Yeah.
And what's really good is I can tell that you're a good spatial thinker, and so your comment about, hey, I don't even have to fly towards the target is awesome, and lets me know that you're really understanding how the system works.
The biggest reason that I wanted to get lessons from you was to try and understand things at a deeper sense, not just kind of ground level.
Yeah.
In a shallow manner.
Yeah.
Like I've already talked to a few people in different groups where essentially, they're like, oh, I don't cold start it, I just quick start it, and then like they get into the firing and everything, and I'm like, well, it feels like you don't really understand what's going on. You just start kind of doing it.
Yeah. So also, if you use your HMD to look down there at our target, do you see the little staple symbol down there?
A little staple symbol?
It's like an upside down staple with a dot in it. Through your HMD field of view.
Oh, through my HMD. Yes.
Yeah. So that little staple is my target that I'm sending to you via data link, and I can see your target with your own little staple.
I don't know. Wait. Can you? Where's the staple? Maybe I'm not looking at.
No worries. Let's complete this attack run, and then I'll revisit that. No worries. So in the top of your HUD, you can see the little diamond.
Yes.
That little diamond is your heading to your target. So you probably want to fly as close to that diamond as you can, heading wise. Now with the JDAM, it doesn't really matter so much. It can turn, but it does matter a lot when it comes to when you're dropping laser-guided bombs in just a few moments here.
Alright, and I am on the diamond and I'm in the zone. Gonna drop K-Boy.
Yep. There she goes. Good separation. There goes mine.
I'm watching yours. That was cool.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah. That was neat. Now I can't see it on my screen though for, I guess, is it still splash, or what do they consider that when you hit a target on the ground?
So, there's two things you can say. You can say splash. That's kind of the more modern way, but I don't think it's as cool as saying shack. So, shack is more of the old school way of saying it, which I think is more fun. And it comes from back in the day when they would make bombing ranges that are basically like gigantic bullseyes in the floor of the desert. They'd build a little wooden shack right in the middle, And if you got a perfect bullseye, you'd destroy the shack. And so pilots would call a bullseye shack.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I think
cool
I'm
stuff.
hitting just the tip of the end of the plane this time. The backside of the plane.
Nice. All right, there's my impact.
There we go. Wait.
Nice job. All right. So now on your stores page, let's select our 82LG to select our GBU-12 laser guided bombs.
Okay, 82LG selected.
Fantastic. And same thing, we'll just fly on out away from the target. We'll give ourselves a nice standoff away from it, so that way they can't shoot at us. And we'll select a new target, and at a perfect time of our choosing, we'll go bomb it.
Okay. And I do have a question about, so we just dropped bombs off the side of our left wing, right?
Yep.
And we still have bombs on our right wing.
Yeah.
This plane I know has, the auto trim, but in other planes and things, is it going to cause the plane to fly differently?
Yeah, so the plane has a pretty huge asymmetrical load on it right now.
Right.
So we need to make sure that we're retrimming out the jet. And if you are having a hard time with getting in front of being able to trim out the jet, like if you're just kind of all over the place, just throw the autopilot on, and the jet will auto trim for you.
Very cool. Are you talking about for this plane specifically too?
This plane specifically, and other aircraft as well. The non-fly-by-wire airplanes are a little more finicky because they are like more old-fashioned systems. Yeah. But for like the F-14 or the F-15E, if you do turn on the autopilot, the CAS system, which is like the stability augmentation system, will automatically trim it out for you.
Can I just say that I really like seeing you flying in formation with this?
Yeah, it's really cool, huh?
It is cool.
And with how beautiful the graphics are in DCS, it's like the coolest thing ever.
And I can see your targeting pod too, which is neat to see.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and make that left or right hand 90, and we'll get on mast and we'll select a new target.
So question, so we're in formation. If I wanted to turn right, like you're kind of right there, right? So how does that work?
Just let's do it. Just don't surprise me.
Okay. Turn to right.
Roger.
Very cool.
So, when you're flying in formation, we'll get to this in later lessons because it's not easy. But and I'm not even all that great at it. Is if you're in a turn, if you're on the inside of the turn. In the turn, you kind of have to lose altitude to stay in position. On the outside of the turn, you have to increase altitude to stay in position. And then, if you're on the inside of the turn, you have to slow down a little bit. And if you're on the outside of the turn, you have to speed up a little bit. Because think about, multiple circles inside of each other. Yep. It's a longer way to go on the outside of the turn than on the inside of the turn.
Right, so they're on, the outside track going around the top, and you're on the inside.
Yep, let's roll out at 060.
Alright, and I'm the leader, so I don't have to go up or down?
Nope, you just maintain altitude.
Way too hard there, sorry.
It's all good.
Still working on the rolling out. I think that you would help me with that curve, which definitely helps. But sometimes, I don't know, I feel like sometimes the resistance on the joystick isn't always or it's just me will be going on it a little too strong, so it kind of starts slow and then it gets really quick. And sometimes I go past that kind of slow area.
Huh. Okay.
I think I'm just going to mess with the curve and make it just a little bit higher for me.
Yeah. And also remember, if you do pass, if you're leading a formation of jets, don't give in to the startle factor and be like, oh my god, there's my heading, ooh, whack, and roll out, because that what you might hit one of your wingmen who is on your outside there or something like that.
Sure. And given that we're really close to our target right now and it's to our right, we can just kind of fly around because that's going to work out the same way.
Yeah. Well, the whole idea of those 90-degree turns for, changing, unmasking our pod is really all about just roughly 90 degrees. It doesn't need to be perfect by any means.
All right. So I'm going to turn 90 right?
No, keep this heading here so that way we can just select a target without flying directly into it.
Okay.
If you look out at the target with your HMD, follow the little arrow in your HMD to the target, Do you see the little diamond, segmented diamond on the ground out there?
Yes, and I see the staple now. Now I see what you're saying.
Yep, exactly. So the staple's my target, the diamond is your target.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty cool, right?
And those were our last targets, so it's kind of like a waypoint in its own.
Yep, exactly. So go ahead and select a new target down there.
Sure. And is there any other way to zoom in right now? Or you said, I can do the elevation. Right.
Yep, you can zoom in even more at the elevation controls.
I wasn't doing that the last time, so this will be even better. Okay.
Yep, and cool. So now we need to arm our laser. So that's going to be the LTD/R switch.
LTD/R, armed. Got it.
Yep, and on your HUD, you should now see L armed for laser armed.
On my HUD, L armed. Yep.
Cool. And by default, your code is 1688 when you turn on the pod, so same as our bombs.
Okay.
If your code in your pod or your bombs is mismatched, then code will flash in big bold letters on your HUD to let you know that your bomb is not going to guide. Okay. So the way that you enter in a new code on your targeting pod is to hit the UFC button on the bottom right-hand side of your FLIR page.
Bottom right-hand side of my FLIR page.
It says...
Is that where the radar is right now? Not the radar, the screen, the picture. Sorry.
Your stream's kind of cutting out a little bit, so I can't really see exactly, but on your FLIR page, where you can see the field of view of your targeting pod, it's the second from the bottom on the right-hand column.
UFC?
Yep. And when you press that, you have two new options pop up on the ODU, LTDC and LSTC.
Right.
You want to click the little button next to LTDC, and that will pop up the currently selected code for the pod, and then you can enter in whatever code you want or need in there to designate. Okay. So essentially, when you take off, your bombs codes can't be changed, but your pod code can be changed. Does that make sense?
What you're saying makes sense, but I don't understand if they're different codes, how that could work.
So your code in your pod is not hard-coded by the ground crew. That you set that. By default, it's on 1688. But in one of my missions, you could be assigned a code of 1555 for your bombs, and so you need to tell your pod to sparkle on 1555. Okay.
And so the bombs are going to do it no matter, are going to react to the pod.
Yep.
Code. Okay.
Yep, exactly. So we need to make sure that our bombs and our pod code match. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. So we got a target selected, so let's go ahead and fly on in and engage that target.
Alright, turn in right.
Roger. So the symbology on our HUD that we use to drop LGBs is a bit different than from the JDAMs. We're going to get a big vertical line that shows up that pretty much covers the whole HUD from top to bottom. Okay. And we need to fly and put our velocity vector as close to that line as possible. It's called the azimuth steering line. It's just going to keep us on the perfect heading for the perfect drop.
Okay. So it's just like the vertical line on the dummy bomb.
Yes, but we want to not dive. We want to fly nice and level.
Sure. But I mean, in terms of where it's going to be dropping is on that line.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. All right, I see your staple. I see my diamond.
Yeah.
We might be hitting the same target. I can't tell from here.
Yeah, from this direction, they're lined up behind each other.
All right, I'm going to be rolling out.
So, do you see the big vertical line now, the ASL?
Yes. And I'm going to line it up with my plane. Or what is that called?
It's called the velocity vector.
Velocity vector.
Yep. All right. So the closer you are there, the better. And then once we get within 10 seconds of release, you're going to see a weapon drop indicator is going to be a little horizontal line that's going to march down from the top of the ASL. And we want to press and hold the weapon release button until the weapon release indicator crosses over our velocity vector. essentially what we're doing is we're authorizing the jet to drop the bombs in the best position possible.
Okay.
The laser will automatically fire when the bomb is 15 seconds from impact.
15 seconds from impact to automatically fire.
Yep. So again, just try and fly as close to the ASL as you possibly can.
I don't know if there's like a lot of crosswind or if it's actually the bomb, but keeping
Do you have your autopilot on right now?
I have the altimeter on. Yeah.
Go ahead and turn your autopilot off and then kind of like trim the jet out manually, and that might help you.
Okay.
Sometimes if you have a big asymmetrical load on the jet, the trim system and the autopilot system tend to fight each other a little bit, so you kind of have to trim it out manually and then potentially put the autopilot back on.
Okay.
Alright, should be around 65 seconds to release. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the countdown to release.
60, yeah, 53, 52. Okay.
Yep. So that just shows you how much time you have left to make sure you're flying nice and steady on the ASL.
And we're going to be holding the button down at 15?
About 10.
10. Okay. And that's the pickle button?
Yes, you got it.
So when I want to trim, like you were saying, that's just like trim left or trim right if my plane keeps falling to the right? Like right.
If the right wing is dropping, you want to put in some left trim.
Okay.
And here comes the weapon release cue.
Yep.
Press and hold.
Got it.
There goes the weapon. Beautiful. And then we just want to hold this heading so that way the laser can start firing at 15 seconds from impact.
Those lays, 12, 10. Oh yeah, I nailed it on this one.
Yeah. Also keep in mind that because it's an active guidance, the bomb is following the laser, you can attack a moving target, or you can actually move your crosshairs to make your impact point a little bit better on the target itself, if you were to need to.
What was it? Shack? Shack
Yep.
1?
Yep.
Do you
Nice.
say a number afterwards, or is it just Shack?
Up to you. Up to whatever you prefer. So that would be a total of 3 hits. So that would be like Shack number 3 or Shack 3.
And then so given what we just did, if that target was moving, how do you move the designator? Because I thought that we kind of set it.
Yep. So there is a way for, it's called point track, where the targeting pod will automatically lock on to the contrast in color between, say, a tank and the background as it's driving along the desert floor or on a road, and it will track that color contrast all the way until the weapon impacts.
That's freaking cool.
Yeah. It's a little bit more advanced because you kind of have to like lead your crosshairs in front of the tank, set up point track, then as the tank drives through your crosshairs, it'll then lock onto it.
Okay.
So also another thing you can do is if you need to manually fire your laser for any reason, you can hit the trig option in the top right of your FLIR page, and then your trigger is now slave to the laser, and you can manually fire your laser with your gun trigger.
Where is the trig? So I'm looking at my FLIR page?
Yep, FLIR page on the top right-hand side.
Oh, I hit FLIR, so CCD, and then on the top right-hand side.
Yep, it says trig.
Mine, I don't have that. I have UFC, I have gray, I have
that's the left-hand side. It's on the right-hand side. I'm sorry, that is the right-hand side. My mistake. It's the top on the right-hand side. It says trig, T-R-I-G. I can see it on your FLIR page.
I feel like I'm blind. Okay, so DCL, LST, I mean, top right, I don't...
Yep, so, let's see here. So...
I see the diamond, and then the closest thing I see to that is FRZ in the center top, and then to the right, on the right buttons, I have RTCL, and that's it.
Interesting. Right above where it says RTCL, it doesn't say trig?
Nope.
Interesting. Well, that's where it should be.
Okay.
If you try rearming your laser...
Oh, yeah, that's off. Rearm. Now trig's back.
Yep, and if you hit that and box it, now your gun trigger is slave to the laser, and you can fire the laser.
Is there any functional reason to do that, ever?
If you're buddy lasing for somebody else's bomb, or if you're using a weapon that requires a laser, it requires you to see the laser spot before it actually comes off your aircraft, like a laser-guided Maverick missile.
Okay. And then it's just easier to use the trigger then at that point for the map.
Yep. Exactly. So we got one more bomb, so let's go ahead and head back around, and we'll reselect a target, and we'll drop our last bomb.
Alright, heading to, turn left.
Up to you.
Yeah.
Works for me.
So heading to 150.
Sounds good.
So you're on the outside, so you had to speed up? Nope.
Yep, exactly. And I was pretty far away from you.
Okay. And coming up on 150 now.
Sounds good.
And rolling out. And that was better. Okay.
All right. And we're pretty far away from the target area, but should hopefully be able to still zoom in and find a new target.
Okay. And so I do see a whole row of...
I think there are Sukhois on the ramp there.
Yeah, I see like a row of like 10 planes or 7 planes.
Yeah, go for it. That's a good target.
I'm going for right in the center of that. Got it.
All right, and when you're ready, just go ahead and fly on in and drop that last bomb.
Sound good.
So something to note about the laser designator arm switch is every time the laser is employed, it will spring load back to the safe position. So every time you drop a bomb, you have to remember to go back down there and rearm the laser.
Okay. And that will also bring back the trigger option.
Yes, exactly. Which is weird, because trig did not disappear on my screen.
Very interesting. So FLIR is in the on position, and then every time we want to drop a bomb, the laser designator has to be turned back on.
You got it.
Alright, and then I see in the HUD your target, as well as mine. And it's 28.6, so that's nautical miles away?
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic.
And notice how on the HUD as well as in the HMD, it instead of saying 27.5 waypoint number whatever, it says TGT for target point.
Right. Because we're not going to a waypoint; it's facing the target.
Exactly.
Okay. And rolling out.
Alrighty.
And I am in line with my vertical targeting line. I don't remember what that's called.
ASL, azimuth steering line.
That's going to take a while to remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Azimuth?
Azimuth. It's essentially, it's a fancy word for heading.
Are you sure that's not a boss in WoW or something?
Yeah.
or Baldur's Gate? Alright, so I am in line with that. I'm still at 99 seconds. So probably ways
So
out.
Once it goes past 99 seconds to release, it just keeps saying 99. It doesn't show another digit.
Got it.
Yep.
So to move my trim to the left, it would be left on the trim hat?
Yep. So if your right wing is dropping, you want to trim it left.
I see it. You have to kind of hold it down for a sec, yeah?
Yeah, I would recommend doing quick taps on it. Pressing and holding it, you're going to over trim the airplane.
Okay.
Yeah. And what I would do is you want to kind of let go of the stick and see where the airplane's falling off, and then give it little taps to the opposite side, and then see what you need to do from there. But basically, it's going to be you have to trim out the airplane pretty much all the time, especially if you start with an asymmetrical load.
Okay.
Right, about 50 seconds to release.
Yep. I am dead center. Looking
Awesome.
good. Is there a lesson we can do on like, so say this targets that I'm pointing at right now, right? It's like a line of jets. If I wanted to like drop, I don't know, I guess like, what is it, cluster bombs or something, where it would like hit all of them in the line?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. That'll be awesome. So both of these bombs are called JDAMs?
No. So GPS guided bombs, which were the first ones that we dropped, those are called JDAMs. Okay. Joint Direct Attack Munition is what that stands for. And then these are LGBs, laser guided bombs.
Got it.
All right, press and hold. Nice, good separation.
Oh yeah. I think I'm enjoying watching that way too much. With the anticipation of it.
Yep, and you can see the TTI, time to impact, as well. Okay. And it's usually slightly off. It usually takes like another heartbeat or two when it hits 0 for the bomb to actually impact.
Yep. Man, perfect.
Nice shot. All right. And we'll go ahead and start flying on back home to our runway lineup point, and we'll make a landing together. So that is going to be steer point 7. So go ahead and fly us there, and I'll stay out in formation with you.
Now, when I hit 7 right now, my FLIR, my pod is still up.
Yep.
So it's okay to just menu that out and
totally fine.
Go back to attack or air radar.
Yep.
All right, so we'll do not FCS. What is it? S. No. So what does EW stand for?
EW is the electronic warfare.
Okay. I can get out of electronic warfare.
Yep. So make sure that we're starting to fly to waypoint 7, because we're actually flying the opposite direction right now.
All right. I'm going to be turning left.
Okay.
I think I had heard that on one of your videos. It's like navigate first, then communicate, then something else.
Yeah. So the hierarchy of your tasks in the cockpit are aviate, fly your plane, make sure you don't run into a mountain, run into another airplane, into the ground, whatever it is. Then navigate, make sure your jet is in the correct spot where you need to be. Then communicate, which means talk to other pilots, talk to ATC, talk to a GCI or AIC. And then finally, your fourth priority in the hierarchy is fighting your jet, getting bombs on target, engaging MiGs, things of that nature. Okay. So, because if we crash into a mountain, then that's not very good for fighting, right? If we aren't in the right spot, that's also not very good for fighting. And then also, if we're not communicating, we're not going to be very good for fighting as well. So it's kind of a hierarchy. Something was like a flying Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, we need to fly before we can navigate, before we can talk, before we can fight.
Now you're speaking my language. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The clinical psychologist thanks you. Question. So I still have a plus sign on my HUD. What is that about? It's like to the left of my horizon line?
let's see, that is your ghost velocity vector. So are you in navigation master mode or in air to ground still?
I'm not in air to ground anymore. No.
Okay. So if you're not in air to air and you're not in air to ground, that means you're in navigation master mode.
Okay.
So what that is you can either have your entire pitch ladder and velocity vector displayed to you the crosswind and where your jet is going based off of that crosswind, or you can press the cage uncage button, which is by default C on your keyboard.
Yeah.
And that will cage your pitch ladder and your velocity vector to the center of your HUD, and you'll have a ghost velocity vector showing you what the wind is doing to you.
Got it.
So yeah, so if you hit that cage uncage button, you can see, do you see how that comes back to the center?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yep, pretty cool, right?
Very much, very much. And then, so how would I get this back to, for instance, I'm on waypoints. Oh, I have to select waypoint again. That's why.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Can I turn to the right to the target?
Yeah, go for it. And then I'm just going to open up my radar again. Something to note about the radar is when you go to air to ground mode, master mode, it will automatically set your radar to air to ground mode on the radar.
I see that, yeah.
And then to get out of air to ground mode on the radar, you can hit the air button in the center left of your radar page, and that will bring you back to the air to air modes of your radar.
Surface, air. Awesome. Yeah. I've actually run into that problem, I think, doing the dummy bomb run. And then basically the way I got it back was like selecting a air-to-air missile.
That works too. There's multiple different ways of doing things, as well as multiple different ways of getting the same information out of your jet, multiple different ways of navigating to a waypoint. So, I mean, it's whatever you find to be the easiest and makes the most sense for you, and that's totally fine. There's nothing in the NATOPS manual or anything like that that says you must have DDI pages, blah, 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 up at this time. So, yeah.
Just a note for you, is there like a day where we could have a lesson too on like the electronic warfare symbols or symbology? When I was flying that random mission with the other guys, like there was a million things on there and then a million things on my HUD, and I had no idea where any of that was good, bad, who were my friends, who was it, and they kept trying to call things out. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no worries. Okay. So, trying to teach you the SA page here. So, go to the TAC menu, and then the only option on the right-hand side of the TAC menu is the SA page.
Yep.
Opening up the SA page, this is your data link page, essentially. And you can see where I am on this page. Obviously, we're pretty close together, so if you zoom the scale in to about 5 nautical miles, you'll be able to see a little bit better. And
how do I SCL/40?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. With 5 nautical miles? Yep.
Do you see your little airplane symbol in the middle, and then just to the right of your airplane symbol is a little circle with an A inside of it. Do you see that?
I do.
So that's me and where I am.
Yours actually has a C inside of it.
Yeah, so your flight lead will have an A, the -2 will be B, the -3 is C, and the -4 is D.
Okay.
I guess somehow we got mixed up in what jets we were in, but regardless.
So if I would have done this yesterday, then my friends would have been in either A, B, or C with a circle in it, basically.
Yep, exactly. And so that helps you figure out where they are, and then you can physically look at them with your HMD, and you can see the circle around them superimposed over their aircraft. Do you see that?
So I am currently looking for you, and I don't.
I'm at your 3 o'clock.
Oh. I'm still getting used to like the fact that I'm being in the air and I have to also lift my head up sometimes and look around. I'm kind of like looking down into the left or down into the right all the time.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I see a C around you. Yep.
Yep. So that way you can also see everything, your wingmen out around you via your HMD. Mm-hmm. And we have a little tanker that's going to pass underneath our nose here. Do you see that guy?
I do.
You can also see a little symbol around him as well, which is kind of cool.
And so what does the circle with the U underneath it mean?
The circle with the U is, that means that he is a good guy. So if anything in the Hornet, when it comes to IFF, if you see a rounded edge, that means he's good. If you see a hard corner, that means he's bad. So bad guys are diamonds, targets are diamonds, good guys are circles.
Fantastic. Totally makes sense and amazing. Yeah.
Also, on the SA page, you can see things called threat rings, which we saw earlier when we first looked at it. We saw the little dash circles with the A inside of it.
Yes.
Those were threat rings for AAA batteries that were down below us.
And what does a threat ring indicate to me?
It means that you're inside the dangerous range of a enemy air defense unit. So if you're inside of a threat ring around a 2, that means that you are inside the launch range of an SA2 guideline. So you want to stay outside of that, so that way the heat can't shoot at you.
So planes can actually tell the firing range of the things on the ground?
Yep, it's all intelligence, right? We know SA2s have been around since the 60s, so we know what their range is and what they can engage us at.
That's fantastic. And are they always, so like when I watched Flight of the Intruder, right? So it's only when they were actively radaring that we can see that? Or in DCS, is it kind of they're always searching?
So the SA page, the threat rings are actually based off of intelligence that's loaded into our mission computers of our jets. So there may or may not actually be a SAM system in that threat ring. That's just where the intel folks think there is one. So that SAM operator may have packed up his site and moved it somewhere else. But hopefully that's where it is. And so that's an additional piece of situational awareness for you.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes. And I currently have my master caution light on.
Okay.
And I don't have anything in the bottom right.
Is it a bingo? What's your fuel state?
It was a bingo. Yep.
Yeah. And it should say bingo on the bottom left of your left DDI.
Yes, it does. Got it.
Yep. There you go. And your SA page also has the ability for you to select waypoint navigation and select a specific waypoint, as well as designate that waypoint as a target, just like on the HSI.
Okay.
So that way you can have your SA page up instead of your HSI if you need to have your SA page up.
All right. So this is my HSI right now. So my SA page. Oh, that was the SA page. Okay.
Yep. They look very similar, but they have pretty different things they can do for you.
So is the HSI is the one that also tells me like my ground speed and my true speed?
Yeah, so the HSI is all about navigation. The SA page is all about situational awareness.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and start descending down to, let's go for 4,000 feet, and let's try to hit 4,000 feet by waypoint 7.
All right.
Have you practiced any overhead brakes for landing yet?
You mean the speed brake?
No, the overhead pattern for landing.
Oh, no.
Okay, no worries. We'll just do a straight in for landing then, and I'll try to coach you through it.
All right. And so we wanted to get down to what
let's go for 5,000 feet by waypoint 7. So let's probably go about 7 degrees nose down or so.
Okay.
Kind of a rule of thumb for descending is if you want a nice, easy, smooth 3-degree glide path, you would want to have 5 miles per every 1,000 feet of altitude you need to lose. Every 2,000 feet of altitude you need to lose.
All right. I'm gonna have to rewatch that and think about that for a moment.
It's not a perfect mathematical model, but it's a good rule of thumb that's good enough for flying. When we hit waypoint 7, we'll fly into waypoint 8, and that'll line us up for runway 31 at King Hussein Air College.
Okay. I see you on my wing.
Yep, I'm still here.
So you said you're about 7,000 feet, so that'll be just about right.
Yep, so let's go ahead and start the turn to waypoint 8 a little early.
Okay, that's going to be turning to the right.
Yep, you got it. And now kind of a cool little trick that's kind of nice in the Hornet is if we designate our landing point, which is waypoint 8, as a target point, we can actually see the airport a little bit easier because it's going to superimpose that target diamond on top of our airport.
Okay.
So just a little trick, up to you whether you want to use it or not.
How do I do that again? I'm sorry.
Remember, waypoint designate on either the SA page or the HUD. Or sorry, the SA page or the HSI.
Got it. Oh yeah, okay.
Makes it easier.
For sure.
And just keep on coming on down to 4,200 feet.
7 degrees nose down? Or...
Yep. And let's start slowing down. We need to come a little bit further to the right-hand side. Let's fly a heading of 330 so we can get nice and lined up for the runway. And we'll slow her down so that way we can start getting our flaps and gear extended. Do you have eyes on the runway?
Yes.
Awesome.
And you want me to go down to 250, or?
Yep, let's get down to 250 so that way we can get our gear and flaps extended.
And what altitude? I'm at 5,000 right now, 48.
Yeah, just go ahead and hold 5,000 for now.
Okay. I'm at 40, 45 now, so.
No problem.
4430. Still slowing down, I'm at 310.
Roger. Use that speed brake, start slowing down a little bit more. And start
all
turning.
All the way out, or does it not? No.
Whatever you need.
Okay.
And start turning into the runway here, so that way we're nice and lined up on the runway.
Alright.
And start a gentle descent down towards the runway here. Just put the velocity vector right where you want to touch down. Gear and flaps out.
Gear and flaps to full.
Yep, exactly.
And gear is down.
And just keep slowing on down.
Okay.
And start descending. Get your velocity vector onto the runway. And keep slowing down. Want to be right at about 140 to 145 knots. And then once you get there, start trimming nose up just slightly until you get your velocity vector into the E bracket.
Okay.
Looking good. Very nice. That's looking real good. A little bit of power. Looks like you're settling a bit.
Yep.
So keep your velocity vector right right where you want to touch down on the runway.
Yep.
Nice, 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 nice. Looking good. Looking very good.
I'm not straight on with the runway, unfortunately.
Yep, so we want to ideally be as straight onto the runway as possible from as far out as possible. Looking good. Good airspeed. I like it. Just keep that velocity vector right where you want to touch down. And don't flare. Just give her a little squirt of power right at the end. And... nice job. Good job. I'm going around.
Oh, shit. Oh, my God.
What happened?
I didn't bring the throttle back down.
Yeah, when you touch down.
I touched and go.
Yep, so throttle up.
Oh, I'm gonna crash.
Oh, okay.
That was rough.
That initial touchdown was really good, though. So,
yeah. I was so excited with touching down properly that I totally left my throttle in the middle.
Yep. So just make sure that, yeah, next time when you touch down, just go throttle immediately to idle and pop that speed brake out as you're rolling out on the runway, and then pull your stick all the way back to your stomach to deflect those big stabilizers, and you will then have nice big speed brakes from your stabilizers as well.
Is it okay to keep the speed brakes out?
Yep.
Engaged?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Would you like me to demonstrate a overhead brake and landing for you?
Sure.
All right, so I'll go ahead and I will share my screen.
So I hope this time it gets recorded. I don't know what the issue was the last time, but it didn't record it. So here we go.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this couple of GP12s over here just because that's going to be annoying in the brake.
Yeah, that was really smooth. That worked. Thank you.
Nice. No problem. All right. So basically, when you're roughly about 5,000 feet above the runway elevation, and you're 5 miles out, that's when you want to start that descent. Start putting that velocity vector right on the runway, and that'll be a perfect 3-degree glide slope on down into the runway for you.
Okay, so 5 miles out, 5,000 feet.
Above the, 2,000 feet above the field elevation. Man, I just can't talk today.
No worries.
All right, so an overhead brake is essentially an expedited way of getting on the ground, and it's better for use on aircraft carriers so you can get multiple aircraft onto the deck as quickly as possible, as well as if you're in a dangerous area where there's bad guys around your airport. It'll keep you fast until you're right over the airport or right over the aircraft carrier, and then you slow down at the last minute for a quick landing.
Okay.
So let's see, you typically want to be about 800 feet AGL. So we'll come on down. And also typically want to be about 350 to 400 knots. We want to be offset from the runway just slightly to the right-hand side, so that way we can look down and see the runway down below us and ensure that the deck of the aircraft carrier or the runway itself is clear of other aircraft. So we can see runway is looking clear. And then about halfway down the runway, we'll turn and we'll pull and put out our speed brake.
Okay.
And we're going to pull to match our G to 1% of our airspeed. On hitting 250 knots, gear and throttle, or gear and flaps down. On the reciprocal of the runway, roll out on the downwind. We're still slowing down, looking for about 140 to 150 knots. Start to bring up some throttle again. We'll trim her into the E bracket. And at this point, now we're in the region of reverse command, so it's all about throttle for altitude and pitch for airspeed. About 45 degrees behind the cockpit, we'll start our base leg.
What
in the
is
turn,
45 degrees behind the cockpit?
So when the runway is 45 degrees behind our shoulder, that's when we want to start the turn. And we're just coming around here, keeping an eye on the runway, making sure that we're keeping our velocity vector inside of the E bracket. But I kind of cut a little short here, so I'll ease out on the turn. And it's really all about good throttle control is the key here. So If you are too slow on the throttle, you can either end up floating way high or you end up falling out of the sky if you get behind the power curve. So it's all about really just moving the throttles all the time.
Yeah.
And then once you get on final, just place that velocity vector where you want to touch down on the runway, and you should be good to go. Nice and gentle with it. A little bit of turbulence down low here. Little squirt of power at the end there to cushion the landing. And we're on the deck.
Very nice.
Speed brakes out. Start to pull the stick back to deflect my stabilators. And start to get on the brakes as well. And there we go. Pretty good landing.
Yeah, man.
And we're able to take the first exit off the runway.
All right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Get your screen off of here and bring it over there. There we go. Okay, so now I'm in my plane again, I think.
Alrighty.
So here we go. Yeah, let's get all this back up.
And I'm going to go ahead and exit the runway.
Okay. I think I broke my landing gear.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't really be surprised.
Maybe.